For Monfils, mobility isn't decorative training, it's the engine. When he sprints out wide to the forehand side and slides into the shot, the load on his hips, knees, and ankles is immense. Without mobility, the slide would be stiff, the foot would catch, or the lower body would lock too early. His style demands that his body react instantly, change direction with a kind of elastic recoil, and stay balanced in positions where most players would be tipping over. Those stretches you see on court, a leg nearly horizontal, the torso leaning out with the racket fully extended, only work because his joints have rehearsed those angles repeatedly in training. His style also relies on fluid transitions. Mobility makes those transitions seamless. When he shifts from a low defensive scramble into a full-speed sprint toward the opposite corner, the change is almost instantaneous. The body can only do that when the joints glide freely and muscles don't fight each other. The smoother the range, the faster the transition. And Monfils is a master of transitions. One moment defending with a slide that seems to defy physics, the next moment springing upward for a spectacular counterpunch. To make those sequences safe and efficient, mobility is essential. Why tennis players need mobility becomes even clearer when you consider the nature of the sport. Tennis repeatedly forces athletes into asymmetrical positions. One hip open, one shoulder rotated backward, the spine arching or twisting, the knees decelerating at odd angles. Without mobility, these movements become restricted, forcing the athlete to compensate with poor mechanics. That compensation leads to overuse injuries, reduced shot quality, and slower court coverage. Mobility allows joints to travel through the ranges needed for strokes, footwork, and recovery steps without strain. It preserves technique under fatigue because the body doesn't resist its own movement. Modern tennis demands more mobility than previous generations. The sport is faster, the surfaces encourage sliding, the balls bounce higher, and players hit with greater spin. All of that requires hips that can open quickly, ankles that can pronate and supinate without collapsing, and shoulders that can accelerate and decelerate through large arcs repeatedly. Mobility allows these high-speed mechanics to happen smoothly. When a player lacks mobility, their contact point shrinks, their timing becomes less reliable, and their balance suffers, especially when hitting on the run. What makes strength training so important to Monfils begins with the reality of how he plays. Every match involves enormous loads on his legs, hips, and core, because he covers the court with a level of speed and explosiveness that almost no one else can sustain. He is known for chasing down balls that seem out of reach, sliding into the corners of hard courts, lunging with one leg extended, while twisting the upper body in a different direction, and sometimes even leaving the ground entirely to hit acrobatic defensive passes. This isn't normal movement, this is athletic chaos, and chaos demands structure behind the scenes. For Monfils, strength and conditioning provides that structure, reinforcing the joints and muscles that must absorb, redirect, and explode repeatedly through long matches. His speed, for example, isn't purely natural talent. It is built and maintained through conditioning that trains the body to accelerate quickly, decelerate safely, and repeat those explosive bursts without losing mechanical efficiency. Tennis footwork involves constant braking forces, and Monfils stops harder and faster than most because he arrives at balls others wouldn't even attempt. Without strong legs, particularly the quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, and calves, those breaks would shred his knees or overload the ankles. His wide defensive stance, where he plants both feet far apart to stabilize while stretching for a passing shot, requires extraordinary isometric strength. The ability to absorb weight at that angle isn't a gift. It is hours of lower body preparation that keeps him from collapsing or tearing something during those extreme movements. His core strength, too, is essential. When Monfils hits on the run, twists in midair, or floats sideways during one of his diving shots, the core must stabilize the spine against rotation, bending, and sudden shifts in direction. A weak core would mean losing balance, spraying shots, and risking injury every time he performs one of those crowd-pleasing improvisations. Because he often hits from unconventional positions, leaning back, reaching forward, sliding laterally, he needs far more core control than a player who sticks to neutral stances. Strength and conditioning builds the muscular endurance that keeps these difficult positions repeatable across long matches or deep into tournaments. Even the showmanship in his game relies on conditioning. His acrobatic shots, though entertaining and sometimes strategically unnecessary, have become a hallmark of who he is. To pull those off safely requires not just flexibility, but the strength to land, absorb impact, and push off immediately afterward without faltering. When he leaps for a jumping smash or twists mid-slide to flick a passing shot, every landing asks the muscles to absorb multiple times his body weight in an instant. Strength training prepares those muscles and connective tissues to handle the shock rather than buckle under it. Then there is his powerful serve and baseline game. While Monfils is known primarily for movement and defense, his serve can be lethal when he chooses to unleash it. Generating that speed requires strong legs to drive upward, a strong core to stabilize the kinetic chain, and strong shoulders and back to accelerate the racket. His ground strokes, though occasionally inconsistent due to shot selection, still rely on strength to maintain depth and pace, especially when struck on the run. Conditioning ensures his power doesn't fade after long rallies or late in matches, when fatigue would normally sap both technique and intensity. Strength and conditioning also play a crucial role in injury prevention, which is especially important for Monfils, given the physical demands of his style. His game demands far more from his body than the average professional, and over the years he has suffered from back issues, knee strains, and muscle pulls that stem from the extremes he pushes. Conditioning mitigates these risks by building resilience into the muscles, tendons, and joints. A stronger muscle absorbs more force, and a more stable joint withstands unpredictable rotations and collisions. Without that preparation, his signature movements, those breathtaking stretches and airborne recoveries, would eventually erode his durability entirely.